Hi, I'm Jim Gary at Batillepi's Workshop. Today I'm focusing on remote switches for electrical lights and other appliances. I've been fascinated by all the newer kinds of remote switches that have come on the market in recent years. So first, I'll take you through several different kinds of remote switches with examples from my shop and house. Then I'll take you through the installation of a remote switch for my shop lights so I can turn them off or on from a second location. So please be aware that I'm a biologist, not a professional electrician, and I'm showing you what I did, not what I think you should do. So please consult a professional before attempting similar projects. If you're interested, there are links to some of my other videos in the description below. So please like and subscribe. Now let's get on with the video. I'm going to be installing a switch, and I wanted to just go over some of the kinds you can get. So this, and I'm not promoting the brand or anything, but this is a switch that replaces the switch that you've already got installed. So you just take out your existing switch, and this will still work as a switch. You can turn it off or on by hand, but it also has a remote switch. So you could just keep this somewhere else if you wanted to actuate whatever this switch controls from a different location. And this would be for one where you wanted it to be portable, where you might not want to have it in just one place. We use this a couple places. One is our front porch. We have fans out there, ceiling fans in our front porch. And the switch is inside the house, which was a little bit awkward. We should have put the switch outside, but it's inside. So I replaced it already with one of these. And we just keep this out on the table because my wife and I like to sit out on the front porch every morning. It's just a really nice experience, and we always need the fans going because it's usually hot here in Florida. Now here's another kind of wireless light switch. And again, the brand, I'm not promoting it or anything. This is just the one I bought by random, a choice from Amazon. And I'm going to install this in my shop because I have a switch by the main walk-in door, but then I didn't put a switch for the lights over by the door that goes into the un-air-conditioned side of the shop. And I've regretted that. So this is going to solve that problem. So let's take a look inside. It's very much like the other one. Here's the switch that goes in, and it's got a transmitter in it. And then here's the remote switch that you just mount on the wall. It doesn't quite act like a regular switch. It's not a toggling up and down. It looks like it just presses up or down, probably off or on. And it's got some different trims, I guess, that come with it. So this is the one we'll be installing. So the main trouble with these is a lot of older houses, they didn't run a neutral wire into the box. So if you don't have a neutral wire in the box, you won't be able to hook up the switch because it requires power, obviously, to run it. And if all somebody did was run a black wire, interrupting the black wire by the switch that went to the fixture, there's no neutral wire in that box. Now, there's new code in the US that requires every switch box to have a neutral wire in it. And I guess that's a response to these kinds of devices where they really need the neutrals. Now, our house is new. It's only 5 years old, and there's neutrals in all the switches, so it works for us. But in an old home, you wouldn't be able to use this unless you could get a neutral wire into that box. Now, I've always had a bedside lamp, of course, to read by or whatever, and I've never liked having to reach over to fumble for a switch. And this is kind of an unusual lamp. It's shaped like a SpaceX Starship rocket. My granddaughter's husband had a friend that was building these, and he gave me one this for a few years ago for my birthday or Christmas or something. But what I've done is I've got it plugged into this box here, and this box has a transmitter that goes to this switch right by the bedside, so I can very easily turn off and on the lamp. And I've got it set pretty dim right now, but I can turn it off and on just straight from my bed because the bed's right here, so I can just reach over and turn it off and on. And this is kind of the original kind of remote switches that I was using. I don't have a remote switch for my Irish setter though, but I do for that one over there. Quinn. See, remote switch. You say Quinn and he looks at you. Let's try it with Millie. Millie. See, she doesn't have a remote switch, but she's a good dog, yes. It's good to have two Irish setters. Another kind of thing, I guess you could call it a remote switch, is one that is normally off, and when it detects motion, it turns on. So this is our pantry door. So we're in the kitchen, there's the refrigerator. But if I open this pantry door and walk in, it automatically turns on the light. And what I did, the same kind of deal. This switch was a normal switch before, but I replaced it with this switch. And you can see it's not normal. It's got a motion detector on it. And I use these in another place too. You got to be careful though when you buy these, because this one is normally off, and when it detects motion it turns on. The first one I bought, I didn't realize it's always on and then turns off when it detects motion. So I had to send that back and get the proper kind. So if you buy one of these, make sure it functions the way you want to, because they function two different ways. This door goes out to our garage, and I'm not sure if it's going to work now because it's not very dark out there, but if you come out here, it detects the motion and it turns on that light up there. So we find that safer because, as you see here, when you come into the garage, you got to step down 3 steps. And so it's good to have the light on every time. Here's where the switch panel is, and again, here's that motion detecting switch that's in there. So I'm in my bird room right now. That's Lola, a conure, and there's a lovebird back there, JJ. And over on this side, we have Barry, our Indian ringneck parakeet. Say hi, Barry. That's a good bird. Yes, you are. Now, one of the things is there is an extra door that goes out to the front porch. And that's where I chose to put the switch for the ceiling fans on the porch. And my wife and I go out on the porch every morning to watch the sunrise. And one of the problems was I'd have to come in here to turn on the switch. And it was usually early in the morning, and I didn't want to bother the birds. So instead, what I did is I replaced that switch. And you can see it's not a normal switch. It's got that little green thing on it. So this switch will work to turn on and off the ceiling fans outside. It's going. But what I did, that switch has a remote. And let's go find it. So this is the front area where we sit for the sunrise every morning. And here's the remote. And I showed you this before, but this is the one we've actually been using. So there's the fan. I hit the remote and the fan turns on, and I hit the button again and that'll turn it off. Takes it a minute to stop, but that's really nice. So here's kind of the view we have every morning. The sun's kind of come up a lot further, so it's pretty bright, but it's really pretty here just as the sun's coming up. Another kind of remote switch are things like this. This particular one works with Alexa, and I've got one similar to it right here, and it's wired up to a lamp I've got underneath the shelf above this bench. All I have to do is say, Alexa, turn on the bench lamp.
Okay.
And she does it. She's pretty good about that. Alexa, turn off the bench lamp.
Okay.
And I've got another one set up for this device. This is really a filter, but it's a fan. And it's got a HEPA filter in it, so when I'm doing a lot of woodwork in here, I mean, I have a dust collection system, but this thing picks up any stray dust out of the air, the finer dust out of the air, and I've got it hooked up to a similar thing. Alexa, turn on the fan.
Okay.
So now it's running. Alexa, turn off the fan.
Okay.
And they have these kinds of switches for Alexa, for Siri, for all Google, all kinds of things, but we use Alexa. So. And by the way, a great timer is to use Alexa. Alexa, set the timer for 10 seconds.
Good morning, Jim. 10 seconds, starting now.
Alexa, cancel the timer.
10-second timer canceled.
And you can set timers for special things. She'll remember different timers. Alexa, set the dust collection timer for 15 seconds.
Dust collection timer, 15 seconds, starting now.
Alexa, set the dog timer for 20 seconds.
Dog timer, 20 seconds, starting now.
Alexa, set the drill timer for 15 seconds.
Drill timer, 15 seconds, starting now. Your dust collection timer is done.
Alexa, stop.
Your dog timer is done.
Alexa, stop.
Your drill timer is done.
Alexa, stop. So far I've shown you switches that either you have to plug the device into for the remote part to work, or you replace an existing switch with one that has the remote function. But there's another kind that I haven't used yet, and it's right here. And it just has to be wired into the circuit that you want to switch, but it itself is not a switch. And then you have a separate remote switch for it. So this would be nice if you were putting in a ceiling lights and you just didn't want to run a wire down to the wall to put the switch in. You could have this up in the box that the ceiling lights are attached in, and then just put the switch anywhere you want. Again, I haven't used one of these. So the actual work I'm going to do today, other than just talk about switches, is here. So this is the switch that turns on the overhead lights in the shop, off and on. It's by the front walk-in door right here, so this just goes out. And this is the main way the dogs and I go in the shop. I'm going to turn the other way, and you'll see the air-conditioned side of the shop is just this 24 by 24 foot section. And I put a sliding glass door to get to the other section. But what happens is, if I'm going into this side of the shop, I don't have another switch to turn off the light if I'm going into here. And that would be nice if I had a switch right here, so I could turn this shop lights off when I went into here. When I go out to mow, I come in through the shop, go over to the mower, open the garage door, and take the mower out to mow. And I always have to come back and all the way to the entrance and turn off the shop light. I don't like to leave lights on. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a remote switch here that'll be controlled by a sending unit that's going to replace this switch. So again, here's the switch we're going to use. It's just a wireless light switch kit. Again, I'm not promoting this brand. I just got it randomly from Amazon. Here's the switch that's going to replace the one by the front entry door. Neutral wire is required. And here's the switch that's going to go over by the sliding glass door. And one thing to remember is there is a battery in here. Obviously, there has to be in the remote set. It's under here. And there's a little pull tab, and they provided it, which is nice. This is a little 12-volt battery. It's called a 23A, and I just keep some of these in stock at the house. They used to be really expensive. They used to cost like, $10, and now I bought some on Amazon. I got a box of, I forget, 6 for about $6, so they've come way down in price. Now, I want it to be the same level as this, but I don't want to put it above it because I don't want to be trying to reach the switch with my hands and electrocuting myself. So I'm going to mount it at the same height, but it's going to be right here next to it. By the way, that's the same bit I used on the electrical screws. And if I decide I don't like it here, I can always move it. So this just slides on the pins. So the first thing I have to do is turn off the power. So I'll go over to my panel. The lights are currently on. So now they're off. So I have to turn on a battery light, take off the switch plate. So there's the switch. I've got these Bosch bits, and they're called P2R2 combo, and they are perfect for handling these screws in electrical components, because those are actually supposed to be square drive, but they also have a slot through them. And Phillips sort of works, but I've never found a bit that fit them perfectly. Let's just take this out. I checked earlier, by the way, the outlets here are also controlled by that same circuit breaker. So here's our wires. So the blacks are just interrupting the hot that goes to the lamps, to the lights. Boy, that is terrific, that bit. Let's see what I got in here. So I've got these labeled in here, that's nice. This one apparently goes to the light. This must be the load. And I'm gonna take this other one out, this receptacle out, just so I can see. I had to kind of rethink how I did this switch and outlet. So what I ended up doing was installed the remote switch, but I changed the outlet from the round type that was on there originally to a rectangular one. And that way I could get a faceplate that would cover both of them. And that faceplate's right here. So that'll work out well. The other thing is, I took a look at the conduit up there. And what happens is from the left side of that conduit, from the load center, from the panel, there's a green, a black, and a white wire. So green is ground, white is neutral, black is hot. And it comes down the conduit, and they all come out in this switch box down here. Here's a diagram I made of the switch and the outlet in the box, just to clarify exactly how I did the wiring. Let's start with the ground wires. There's a Wago, and it's got 4 ground wires in it. One of the ground wires comes from the panel, and then the next green wire here goes back up, and it feeds the rest of the downstream circuit. So the light fixture, and also I've got an outlet on my bench there. And then that leaves a green wire ground to the outlet right here, and then a green wire coming from the switch. And so that's the 4 connectors on that Wago. So now let's do the same thing with the neutral wire. So a white neutral wire comes from the panel down the conduit, and it connects right here onto the screw on the neutral side of the outlet. And then on the same screw, another white neutral wire goes back up, and it goes to the right to feed the rest of the circuit. And then the switch needs a neutral, so the switch has this white neutral wire here, and I just fed that right into the top screw on the neutral side of the outlet. Then we get to the hot side, and the same thing. Coming down from the panel is a black wire, and it connects right here, the top screw of this outlet on the hot side, and then another black wire from there goes back up the conduit to feed the rest of the circuit to the right. And then of course the switch has a black wire, a hot wire, so I just ran that directly into the other screw on the hot side of the outlet. And then the switch also has a load, that's this red wire, and that has to connect to the hot wire that goes up to the light fixture. And I identified that when I put this all in, so that was easy. So just a single Wago connector there. So basically just simplified it, took out a whole bunch of unnecessary connectors, so everything will fit back in the box a lot better. So now I'm going to wrestle all these wires back in. And because I used a 20 amp, all my circuits are 20 amp, I use 12 gauge wire, so it's a lot harder to get this stuff in. But the main thing is to get that, the ground Wago well in the back out of the way. But I think it'll fit just fine. Try to get it lined up properly. And let's see if the switch plate fits. Not quite. Looks like this one has to come over just a titch. There, that fits. So I'll tighten everything up, hold it in position. Okay, fit right on. Okay, so there we go. It's nice and firm. So I'm going to turn off the auxiliary lights I've got. I'm going to turn on the circuit breaker, hit the switch, and the lights come on. So that switch works. So now let's just test the other side, the remote switch that we already installed. So I'll just walk over here. Here's that remote switch. Off, it's off. On, it's back on. Good, so everything's fine. I'm very pleased. Well, that about wraps it up. I hope you found my foray into remote switches in this video interesting. And thanks for watching. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. Bye.